Let's talk about how firms can acquire inputs. They basically have three alternatives available to them. They can use spot markets, they can use long-term contracts, or they can vertically integrate. The optimal way to acquire inputs is going to depend upon two key characteristics of the relationship between the buyer and the seller. First, to what extent are the investments that the buyer or seller need to make to engage in a transaction specialized? And second, how high are the costs of writing long-term contracts? Investments are relationship specific when their value falls to zero if the buyer and seller do not continue their interaction. This means that once the cost is paid, it is completely sunk. Sunk costs create switching cost and lock-in. Switching cost means that there's going to be an additional cost to switch from a new buyer or new seller, which means that the other side of the bargain has some advantage over you, and they know that you don't want to switch. They can therefore extract from you whatever the switching costs are when they attempt to hold you up. A holdup occurs when one party tries to take advantage of the other party's sunk cost by extracting that sunk cost or their switching cost out, either by changing the terms of the contract while the contract is ongoing, or by negotiating better terms when the time for the contract to renew occurs. Spot markets work well when the transaction requires no or few relationship-specific investments. Spot markets fit most commodities. If you need to buy paper, for example, the specifications of paper are pretty clear, pretty simple. The contract is simple, and the buyer can easily switch from one seller to the other without incurring significant switching cost. Spot markets like vendors to take advantage of economies of scale. The sellers can expand to service many buyers and can therefore grow to a size that allows them to produce the commodity at the lowest possible average cost. And finally, it lets the firm focus on its core competency. VCU doesn't have to worry about producing paper. We can focus on producing quality research and teaching good classes without trying to figure out or being distracted by having to produce paper. Contracts work well when the relationship-specific investments are high and contracting costs are low. Investments are high, contracting costs are low. The contracts protect both parties from future holdups. They don't have to worry about one party trying to change the terms in midstream or trying to extract exorbitant terms when it's time to renew. Contracting costs are the cost of writing and enforcing these contracts. Finally, vertical integration works well when both relationship-specific investments and contracting costs are high. Relationship-specific investments make both parties reluctant to enter into an agreement without some protection from future holdups. Contracts can prevent people from future holdups. If writing a contract is difficult, it's going to be difficult to protect each party from future holdups. Contracting costs increase as the contract becomes more complex, as the environment becomes more uncertain, and as technological progress is more frequent. All of these mean that the lawyers have to think about more things to write into the contract to protect both parties. And the more things you've got to consider, the more possible outcomes that you want to, from which you need to protect yourself, the more difficult it's going to be, one, to write the contract, and second, to get all parties to agree that the contract is treating both parties fairly. Among other things, this means that the optimal length of the contract decreases as the contracting costs increase. So eventually, as contracting costs get high enough, contract costs get high enough, at some point, the optimal length goes to 0. It doesn't make any sense at all to write a contract if the costs are too high. That brings us to the end of Lecture 2 and the end of this course. Please consider the material we've covered on this lesson about vertical integration as you answer your questions on why you matter. Right now, as an employee, you are vertically integrated with the firm. Could they outsource you easily? What are the transactions cost? What are the relationship-specific investments? And can they outsource you easily?